Welcome to the Salem Chamber podcast. I'm Tom Hoffert, CEO of the Salem Chamber, and we're pleased to have you listening. Let's jump right in. Today I'm joined by Ryan Collier and Stephanie Palmblad, partners at Collier Law. Welcome, Ryan and Stephanie.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
We look forward to sharing some conversation about business, about what makes your company so special, why you, in fact, love to be in Salem. And let's jump right in and tell us a little bit about each of yourselves, if you wouldn't mind. And Stephanie, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your history and a little bit about your history in Salem and your passion and your career, and just give the guests an overview of who you are if they haven't met you before.
Yeah, well, my name's Stephanie Palmblad, and I came to Salem to attend Willamette University. I loved it and decided I wanted to stick in Salem, and decided that I was going to apply to the School of Education and the School of Law. My mom's a teacher, and I knew I was really passionate about educating others. So I had also had a professor who suggested that I consider law school based on a paper I had written as my senior thesis project, and applied to both and made the decision to go to law school, and never looked back. And it's just a fantastic fit.
Where did you, before being in Salem, where are you relocating from?
Rural Clackamas County, little town called Colton, Oregon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we drive through Colton on the way to Mount Hood sometimes, going the back ways, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so Salem's the big city for me. When I came here, you know, they bring pizza to your house here, which was really a big deal, coming from a small community.
Oh, that's great. Ryan, how about a little bit about your background and story?
Well, I'm a Seattle kid, born and raised in Seattle, and here's a little shout out to Willamette University, because Willamette University has just brought so many great people to this community, and certainly Stephanie's one, I'm one too. I was accepted to law school down at Willamette, came down here, really hadn't been to Oregon before. My new wife and I, Holly, we came here and started raising our kids here. Went to law school, and you start to kind of put down roots, and really, really fell in love with Salem, our church community at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. We had friends here, and all of a sudden Ryan gets a job offer for a big Seattle firm, like big 40th floor of a big building in downtown Seattle, really great pay. I'm like, oh, Holly, we got to go do this, right? So Ryan goes back to Seattle, works in this big firm for 2 years, and the reality is big firm life in a big city is not conducive to a healthy young family. And Holly and I made the decision, she got pregnant with our third child, Sean, and she's like, Ryan, this is just not working out. And I'm like, you're right. So we made a choice to focus on family, move ourselves back here to Salem, and it was the best decision that we ever made. Salem's school systems are great. We love Salem Kaiser, what they did for our kids. My work life was, really short commute. I could be there to help raise the kids, and it was just a great decision for us to come back to Salem. And at that point, I joined a law firm that was then called Clark Lindauer. I was a partner there for about 8 years. And so from big firm, mid-sized firm, and then after that, 2008, that firm dissolved, and I decided myself, and like one staff member said, let's start a new business called Collier Law. And so we started at that point, and just simple kind of estate plans and wills and trusts, and focused our energy on that. And then next thing you know, we're growing just a little bit. And that's when Stephanie came in my life.
Yeah, so I applied when I was in law school to work as a law clerk, and just wasn't sure exactly what I was getting into with Ryan, but the work, the type of work we do, I was an English major, and we do so much writing to solve clients' issues and really taking care of great people, having really meaningful conversations with families about how to protect them. And I just loved it. And so I wrapped up law school that following year, just went straight into being an attorney with Ryan. And so 2011 was when I first started working with Ryan. And then in 2018, we went into partnership. We are, I think, in our 6th year of partnership now.
Incredible story that Willamette brings two people from outside the community who now proudly call Salem home. And we'll circle on Salem being home for both of you a little bit later in this show. So tell us about the firm itself now. And is the firm working on the same types of things they were in the early 2000s, Ryan? Or are you now shifting to different things? What's a specialty of the firm, and if somebody were to be looking for the particular legal services that you offer, what would they be seeking?
Well, I say our core has always been estate planning. So wills and trusts, helping families administer probates or estates, being with families in those transitions of life that happen. But I'd say earlier on, when we were a little bit younger and hungrier, we did a little bit more. We did things like litigation in those areas. We did a little more business and real estate work. And that was very early on. And Stephanie and I read this really great book that's sort of been a core philosophy of ours, really for the whole time we've been together. It's called Good to Great. And they have some really amazing philosophies in there. But one of the ones that's apropos to kind of what you're saying is called the hedgehog principle. You know, hedgehogs are really good at one thing. They'll roll up in a ball, stick their spines out, and man, that fox can't get them, right? That's the one thing they're really good at. So in a business perspective, if you take what are you really good at, what are you really passionate about, and then what makes you money? And the nexus of those three things is your core principle. It's what you should focus all your energy on. So we adopted that, really cut away all the extra stuff. We only focus on estate planning and helping families transition during disability or death. So, and that core means we got rid of everything else. The immediate response is all the other law firms in town know what we do, and they're not worried about us taking their business. So really, other law firms are one of our great referral sources because they know that we're going to stick to what we do best and what we're experts at.
That is a really interesting business move and savvy by both of you. Did it cause any pinch points? Were you passionate about other areas of law and you're like, ooh, it's hard to let that go? Or is this something that is just very easy in the morning to get up and work on estate plans?
One thing that Ryan and I have in common is that we don't tolerate injustice well. And so when someone calls us and some wrong has been done, and we can see that the law is clear, whether that's a trust issue or a probate issue, we can get very fired up and passionate about supporting people and making sure that the law is followed and honored. And so letting litigation go was a challenge at times because we wanted to stand behind people and rally to their side and ensure that the laws were followed. And so letting the wonderful partners that we have in our community serve those clients instead, knowing that our service to them in helping them on that journey to justice was helping them just transition to the right attorney to do that work. People who are doing that all day, every day are going to serve them best anyway. And really focusing on our passion, which is just caring for estate planning, putting plans in place so that they have the least risk of following that path where somebody does get wronged.
As a layperson and not a legal mind, I just think this is really innovative. And to kind of build almost your base of support around potential competitors who instead see you as great partners because of the area of strength and the respect that creates because you're not a threat. You're in the market to make things better for the consumer. So you have that lens on, but also to be great fellow professionals to those who are in a similar profession is probably a great gift to the community and probably creates a lot of goodwill between you and, as you mentioned, some of the people who are giving referrals, and I would imagine vice versa. Talk to me about, because it's not just you two at Collier Law, talk to me about the assemblage of your team and some of the areas you thought about, intentionality for the hires, and tell me about your team at home base and a little bit of the missional work you put in behind assembling that team.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that we do when we are working with our team is we really want to choose people who know how to care for others, and particularly care for our clients, care for our team. That's really a through line for us. And so as we choose who to bring on board, we want people who are going to care for others and make them feel welcome. It's really hard to call an attorney. It's really hard to deal with the loss of a loved one or incapacity or crisis. And so we want them to feel welcome and safe. And so we're really looking for team members who have that skill set, who have that warmth and welcome and the eye for detail to make sure that all of the pieces are there. And so as we distinguish ourselves from others, how we care for our clients is one of those things. Some of the things that we do a little bit differently than other businesses is when we do estate planning, we do flat rates. We want people to ask questions. We want our team to know that our clients will call and ask questions, and they don't get bills for that. And then we cover changes on our estate plans for the first year after somebody signs them, because sometimes people put a plan in place and then they panic and they think that's not what I meant. That's not what I wanted. So just knowing this is a safe space, they can come back, they can call us. We're going to find the fit and make sure we come up with a solution that really cares for them. So in how we serve our clients and how we choose our team really circles around that core.
I think our listeners are going to hear a little bit about why you've ascended to be the premier company in this space. This sounds incredibly user and customer focused. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really starts obviously at the top, but it starts with the philosophy you create kind of inside your office as well too. And Stephanie and I, we love the family of staff and team members that we have assembled, and we really care about them. You know, we've always believed in family first. And so we believe that if you take really good care of your team members, if you take really good care of your staff, they're going to take really good care of your clients. And so we firmly believe that. And we know that we kind of feel a weight of responsibility for our staff, because it's not just a job. We're supporting them and their families and their lives, right? So it's not lost on us that we want to take really good care of our team members. And the translation is then our clients get better service that way too. So it helps.
I'm going to ask probably a really basic question, but I would imagine if I'm thinking it, probably some other listeners are as well. Tell us what the experience is when you decide to set up your long-term plan for your family's wealth or transition. What does it start with? You mentioned a phone call, but then are you meeting in person with your clients and starting to get to know them and understanding their where they want to go in the future, or is there a form they fill out? I know that's probably so silly, but I haven't gone through this process yet. I need to, and we'll talk a little bit about getting ahead of this in a moment, but what is the process for somebody? And boy, I need to have a trust and I need to get this figured out. What are our first steps? What are we going to experience when doing this?
So our firm handles these things a little bit differently than other firms might. We don't charge anything for the initial consultation. Sometimes people call and they say, hey, what's it going to cost to get a will? And I say, well, it's kind of like calling the mechanic and you say, hey, my car broke down. What's it going to cost to fix it? I have no idea. Let's get under the hood. Let's see what's going on. What are the problems that we need to solve here? And so we've made the choice to not charge for that first meeting, knowing that not everybody will choose to move forward with us, but also knowing that we need to build trust with each other and we need to know what's going on with them so we can give them a meaningful quote and have them understand exactly what's going on. So our process is when someone calls, they can choose to make a telephone, video, conference, or in-person appointment with us. And we want them to come prepared for that. So we send out some worksheets for them to complete in advance to organize information about who is in their life. Do they have children? Do they have pets? What are the assets in play? We ask a lot of questions about assets because that is where taxes come in. And so it's important for us to understand exactly what is going on in their life so we can talk through what taxes will come into play for them. And we also send them a video to just introduce them to some of the complex things we're going to be asking about. When they come to that first appointment, then they've had some time to really emotionally prepare for the issues as well as information gather. So we can make that time really productive and dial in on what are the specific issues in play for them. Are we dealing with children who are battling addiction, incarceration? Do we have kids who are going through divorce? Do we have no kids and we don't have anyone who we love or trust to lean on in a crisis? Do we have complex tax issues? Do we have no assets and we're really only worried about resolution of creditors? All of these problems are different and the tools we put together are different to solve them. So that first meeting is really about getting under the hood and understanding what is in play and what are some options for solving that. So once they have made the decision that they want to go forward with that plan, then for a lot of clients, we will schedule that next meeting out to review documents. So we will put together the plan based on what we worked on with them. We send them out a letter in advance, just reconfirming all of the decisions. We want to be sure spelling of names is right, addresses, phone numbers, all of that is in order. And we want to make sure we've gotten all the core concepts. If there's something wrong, then we can catch it in advance. So by the time they come in, we're really looking at some polished documents. And most of our clients do choose to sign the documents that day, and then they can take them home with them. So we try to make it as seamless as possible because we're mindful that our clients are taking time off of work. They're coordinating childcare. They're trying to get here, and every appointment that they have to make time for and coordinate is an impact to them. So we try to be as efficient as possible in that process.
As a society, we're just have this time has become such an important currency, and how much we can give to the things that, you're pulled from work, you're pulled from family, and then you have a little bucket of personal equity and time. And so some of these type tasks, you can almost go, oh, I just don't have time for that right now. But prioritizing and getting ahead of this, I would imagine, is a much simpler process than tackling this in a time of crisis. Tell me about, does that occur when we've had a death in the family, we've had possibly a divorce, a major financial disruption, a major life disruption? Does Collier Law take on those moments as well, or only well planned out occurrences in life?
We do get emergencies, and people tend to procrastinate, and unfortunately sometimes they procrastinate too long, and their loved one's in crisis, they're having a health issue, and we get that call, and it's challenging. But we, in those times, you just that they have one life and it's not going well right now, and they need some professional help. So in those situations, we're blessed to have a team. We have three other associate attorneys that work with us, and we see who has the most available time, and we drop what we're doing and we go to the hospital, or we go to the home where they're struggling, or just help them get those things. So it's not ideal to do it in that situation, but sometimes you got to. And it's actually one of the blessings of what we do is that there's a sacred time in our lives when we're struggling with incapacity or death. And not many people get to walk that journey with people. And we have the blessing of being able to walk along with them, to understand their spiritual needs. Like, what professionals get asked questions about their religious or spiritual beliefs, particularly when you're dealing with the end of life, and being able to be with someone in their last moments just to make sure things are in order, to kneel down and pray with them, as they're getting ready to meet their maker. Man, there's not many professionals that get that kind of blessings. And I'm so grateful to be able to walk in that sacred journey with people. So I guess that's a long way of saying, yes, we do that. And it's actually one of the things we love to do with people because it's so special for that family.
Yeah, I've spoken with Tom Golden about this. So Golden's funeral home, when people are at their most challenging moment, number one, we don't always show off our best side because there's a lot of emotion going on. But the people that come alongside people in the most challenging moments really can make the experience or put a real additional tough barrier and a different tough hill to climb over. And it sounds like your team's ready to walk with people in their toughest moments. But I would imagine it's better to get ahead of it. So if you're listening to this, let's get that estate planning done early. And it probably makes when the challenging moments happen a lot more seamless, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You said it better.
I said it better. Let's talk a little bit about trajectory. And Collier Law has a great model set up. You have very special employees who are thoughtful for the moments that people face, and they're skilled. As you look at the trajectory of the firm, what are you most excited about? What's coming up, and what's got your juices flowing for both of you right now?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really excited about is Women's Worth. So we have been doing this really incredible educational event for about 6 years now, and we have been holding it once or twice a year. We started in person, and then with COVID, we pivoted and went to a webinar version, and this is going to be our first one back in person. And so it's actually right around the corner on Friday, October 27th at 9:30 in the morning at the new Chemeketa Agricultural Complex. And what we do is we have conversations around women, wealth, and worth, and educating women on how these issues uniquely impact them. So, for example, if husband and wife are the same age, statistically, wife will outlive husband every time, probably by about 8 years. So when we are planning as women, we have to think about, yeah, it's great that our spouse may be able to lean on us, but when the time comes that we need help, we're probably not going to have the spouse to lean on. We are more likely to be the one carrying out the tax planning because we're the surviving spouse. We are more likely to be the one dealing with the kids in crisis, needing help inside the home to support us. So it's really important to understand how these unique issues impact women and to prepare ourselves. So because those issues are different, we've created a forum to have those conversations. And Melissa Lindley at Willamette Vital Health, Brenna Bauckham at Collective Wealth Planning, those are the two co-presenters. And we're just going to have continental breakfast and really hard conversations with a lot of women about those issues.
Both skilled in their own right. And Brenda, a former, like the gentleman next to you, outstanding young professional in Salem. Wonderful. Ryan, what are you excited about?
Well, I'm excited. A couple initiatives that we're working on, and we took our whole team through diversity, equity, and inclusion training, and what came out of that is what do we want to do in the community, and what we realize is the Hispanic community is very underserved, meaning there's not legal services necessarily available to them. And then particularly when you're talking about Spanish speaking, there's just, quite frankly, we've been told that we are one of the, or maybe the only Spanish-speaking estate planning firm in town. So we made a decision that we want to lean into that community to serve that community, because there's great business owners that need help. There's families that need help, but the language is sometimes a barrier for that. So two of our associate attorneys, Jacob Sinclair and Myra Gonzalez, are fluent in Spanish. We have multiple staff members that are fluent in Spanish. We have a receptionist that's fluent in Spanish. And we've made these hiring decisions specifically so we can lean in with that community and be available to provide services. And one, I think it's just great business to lean into communities that are underserved because, one, they need the help, so the business is there. But it also feels like the right thing to do in a community that's so great and so multicultural. We have such an amazing Hispanic community to be able to lean in with that community and find better ways to serve. That's where we're really excited about that initiative. Jacob, you're obviously aware that we're doing a lead business forum that's coming right up, and there's a Spanish language day for business owners and an English language day. And Jacob Sinclair is actually one of the speakers for the Spanish day, and we're excited about being able to do that. And it's a learning experience. We have great partners in that community. They're kind of helping us navigate and how to be better lawyers for that community, and we're excited about where that's going to go and where that's going to lead.
It's a really great initiative that you've taken on and looked internally. The chamber, we've done that as well, and ramping up our it's dual language for us right now, and I think all businesses are going to need to look at the continued expansion of different languages that are spoken in our communities. But it is very reflective of our community to have not just Spanish speaking, but understand the cultural side of different communities. And it's what makes Salem so special is Salem doesn't look and feel the same all the time. And the faces of our residents are incredibly diverse, and they have different needs. And to have access to services like this and meet people where they're at is very savvy of both of you, and I applaud that. How do you support? So let's get a little granular and tactical. You have staff members who are undoubtedly high performers. They're accomplished in their trade. They could, like most of our workforces, choose where they'd like to be deploying their skills. How do you build up your staff members? What do you do and some of the tactics you use? Maybe even benefits, some rarities, some things that make Collier Law unique, that make employees go, this is exactly where not only I need to be, it's where I want to be right now.
It's really kind of a twofold issue. One is that we have amazing team members who are hungry for knowledge, which is great. So we do internal trainings. We have different forms for stockpiling issues that people want to learn more about, whether that's our attorneys. We have an attorney lunch where people bring issues to dig into and analyze them. Then our staff also have forums to bring issues to deal with. So we do those internal team trainings. We do continuing legal education opportunities. And then they work so hard. They work so hard. We do not really have problems of people who slack off. They work so hard that it's really important to us to fill them back up and have opportunities for fun. So we do an internal book club. We do team building activities. We've gone out to visit Sheena Nash and done flower arranging out at her beautiful farm. We've done pottery making. We've done ropes courses. So finding ways to step outside of the work and just really focus on our relationship building with our team, that's been really important to us.
Well, those are intentional. This isn't just magically happening. And what I would share is most successful workplaces have created a culture that the team creates. It's very hard as the leader to say, this is our culture, this is how it's going to be. You have to intentionally groom and create this culture and in this environment and get that buy-in from your employees that say, God, this is a really exciting and place to work. I feel valued and heard, but I'm making a difference. And your employees understand they're making a difference in the lives of people. And so very powerful. Ryan, what about from your perspective? You have some tricks of the trade. You've been an employer for a lot of years. What are some of your tricks of the trade that really build your employees up and make them feel like Collier Law is exactly where I want to be?
Well, I think it's important to bring my team members alongside with me because the client interaction for us is really where it's at. It's where we get our feedback, and to have a staff member or a young attorney or who's ever working with me at the time actually walk in with the client, be available there, hear the client's concerns. And I love being in those meetings with my staff members, one, because it educates them. They can obviously hear me giving advice, but also educates them on what the client's needs are in a little more direct way. So we have a philosophy to kind of bring them alongside. And I love turning to my associate attorney or turning to my paralegal when we're in the meeting and says, hey, what did I miss? Did I miss something? And I love it when they just jump right in and start lining up some more questions that they have, because then they're involved. Then they feel some ownership over the process and then build their own relationship with our client so that, they feel comfortable like giving a call. Hey, Jane, we had that meeting last week. I wanted to follow up on this or that. By not putting all that weight on either Steph or I, by involving them in that process, they feel like they're serving the client. They get the direct feedback of the thanks and the gratitude. So I think that's important for us to better serve our clients, but also help educate our team members by bringing them alongside us.
360 degree around your customer, but that internal ownership of, hey, I'm going to take care of them every single one of these degrees and know I have the support of the two partners at the top probably gives them a pathway to think, this can be a future for me, and I hope to see myself as a partner eventually.
Well, and one thing with that is things don't always go right. Sometimes things go wrong. And so the other side of that accountability is teaching them that we own our mistakes and that it's okay to make mistakes, that we are human and we know statistically we are going to make mistakes, and that we take ownership, and really empowering our team to make it right with the client. So our receptionists are equipped with gift cards. If something goes wrong, they are empowered to just jump in and say, hey, look, can we buy you a cup of coffee? I'm sorry for that delay. Go have a cup of coffee on us, or different ways that we teach them that we're accountable when it goes right, but we're accountable when it goes wrong too.
And I think from a leadership standpoint too, internally, when things go wrong, we've really empowered our team members to think independently. Like, don't come to me with the problem, come to us with a solution. So we want you to be accountable. But as long as you are accountable for what you did and come up with the solution, we're always going to support you. We're always going to back you up. And so we really try to instill that independence in our team members and letting them think outside the box. What are the ways that we can resolve this? And we usually agree with them. We usually support their decisions on that.
It sounds like a problem-solving process, and encouraging them to take that on their own and own that process. I would imagine being incredibly well educated and skilled legal minds they're problem solvers every day, but maybe not thinking about problem solving on the human level. And boy, maybe that guidance maybe triggered my customer to wonder if that's the best path, kind of self-owning the whole process and making sure the end result, the client, when they're writing that final check and signing that final document, they feel pretty proud of the process and that they were heard. And the future is going to be stronger because of the work that Collier Law has done in partnership with them. Want to talk a little bit about what your customers are facing in the market right now. And Stephanie, you touched on one that jumped out and I immediately put down is the complexity of tax code. And you mentioned the tax code and some of the variables that happen either through death, through divorce, through major life changes. Would one of you want to talk about what the challenges are that you see your clients facing that are really the most difficult?
I think we live in a great state. Like, I love the state of Oregon. I mean, it is beautiful. We have the mountains, and you know I'm a skier, so I can do that all day long. We have the ocean. And quite frankly, people in Oregon are so friendly. You go anywhere else in the country, and you're always amazed and surprised by, man, people are so friendly in Oregon. Like, they literally get out of the fast lane on the freeway for you in Oregon. They will not do that in any other state. I love Oregon. This is a great state. But you're not living here because it's a tax haven. We have a pretty stiff income tax that cuts right into the fixed income that our seniors tend to have to deal with. And we have a death tax, an estate tax, one of the most onerous in the whole country. And that really affects people. It affects small business owners, it affects families, because the threshold in Oregon is so low. It's only $1 million. You add up the whole value of your real estate, face value of life insurance, your retirement accounts, man, you get through that pretty quickly. So in our state, our lawyers, Stephanie and I, have to deal with complex tax issues and advanced planning that, quite frankly, none of our neighbors have to deal with. You move in any direction from Oregon, they're not having to do complex tax planning in their estate plans. So really, if our clients' assets like go above $1 million, man, they're doing tax planning. And it's probably the biggest challenge for our clients is the expense of planning in Oregon is just going to be steeper because there's more complex issues to deal with. And having to deal with that on a family basis, potentially having to sell assets when a loved one dies when you would have rather the business continue. I mean, those are real challenges that our clients have to face that we have to kind of navigate and wade through with them.
There's a level of frustration I have from time to time with the amount of incredible people that, and I'll use Salem, but let's use Oregon in general, these very bright, skilled minds that have been fortunate through their business savvy to accumulate quite a bit of wealth. And we've seen some migrate out of the state strictly due to tax infrastructure here. And we have dear friends who have done this, and it's challenging for me because I feel like this loss from the community. Is there anything on the horizon that you've seen, or an initiative that, Tom, if we could do one thing, if we could do one or two things, would pull that burden back a little and encourage more people to finish out end of life in Oregon? Or is it just, Tom, I got to tell you honestly, not a good place to finish out life?
Well, you said, is there one thing that our legislature can do to make this a better environment to live in? Portability. Our federal government has a system for married couples called portability, meaning when one spouse passes away, the deceased spouse can literally just give their estate tax exemption to the surviving spouse. You don't have to file anything complex. You can just give it. And in Oregon, they don't allow you to do that. In Oregon, if one spouse passes away and they don't use their $1 million exemption, they lose it, meaning the whole estate goes to the surviving spouse. Their estate's now twice as big, but when they die, they only get their one exemption. If Oregon would just adopt portability, we would be doing way less complicated tax planning because at least that shelters $2 million of the married couple's assets. That's a big one. Now, I do want to give the state of Oregon legislature a little bit of kudos because this summer they adopted a new natural resources exemption, which is huge for our farm families, our fisheries families, and our timber families, because they have tons of large assets, but no cash to pay those taxes. So our legislature adopted a new $15 million exemption for natural resources property. So if you have a farm, if you have timber, if you have a fishing boat, and those assets exceed 50% of the value of the estate, you get an additional exemption if you keep those businesses running after the death. Well, what a great thing. Like, not even the federal government has that kind of natural resources exclusion. So kudos to the state of Oregon for adopting that to give some relief to family farms and family fisheries and timber property.
Sounds like there's a little more opportunity to go, though.
There is a little bit.
Okay. As we kind of draw towards conclusion, you as two leaders, I always suggest to be our best for our team and our clients, we got to be ready to roll. And so this probably sounds like more of a funny question, but there's a lot of science behind this question. How does Stephanie, how does Ryan relax and recharge so they're ready to take on the world each day with their teams, be great family members, be great community members? Stephanie, what's your relaxation plan? What would we see you doing and recharging the batteries? How would you be doing that?
So I would say there's three that I lean on. One, if I want to relax, but I want to stay in a work mindset, but I want to think more creatively, I love the Biz Chicks podcast for just thinking outside the box on being a better leader, on being a stronger business and showing up better for my team. So Biz Chicks podcast is fantastic. When I'm ready to step a little further away from work, meditation is something that I do. The Calm app has a really great section on work, on mindful leadership, mindset, motivation, or stress reduction, or just general meditation. There's a ton of science behind meditation on reducing stress and improving mindset. So that's a big one. And then the last one is I run. And that's another crossover thing that I can bring back to the office. So I love running for stress reduction, for the endorphins it gives me. But recently I've done some run-on-ones. So for the team members who do run, we can make one of our meetings a month into a running meeting where we just pop over to Bush Park and we have really great conversations while we do a run together. So those are some of the things that I do to step out, relax, and recharge.
Okay, can I use run-on-one?
Yes, I did not come up with that. I just love it.
I love it. Ryan, how about yourself? You're Mr. Activity.
For sure. And I'd say my number one stress reducer is exercise. I know that I resolve issues by running. I'll go out on a run and I have an internal conversation that happens there that just clears the stress of the day. I finish conversations internally that I wanted to have. And at the end of that, I'm so recharged and refreshed and ready to go. And I love that we have a culture at our office that is adopting running. Like, we had a Hood to Costa team, and I'm going to give Alex Casebear a little kudos here because he founded a team about 7 or 8 years ago through Capital Auto Group. And a few years ago, he just asked me to take it over. So we are continuing the tradition of bringing Hood to Coast to our team. And so we had 12 runners that did Hood to Coast, and just doing the training leading up to that, I think just helped all of us do a little bit of stress relief, and then doing a fun team thing together where we're in a van for 36 hours together, sweating and struggling and laughing and dancing. What a great opportunity that Oregon has in Hood to Coast. And so we love exercise just as an office and as a stress reliever and as a team building activity. So one of the big things we do. And then I'd say my other big moment to recharge is travel, and just getting away from the office and seeing the world and other cultures, whether it's Central Oregon or whether it's another country. I recharge by getting away, and then I come back to the office refreshed and ready to go. So those are my ways.
It sounds like on our first visit, if you're a prospective client, bring your running shoes, and we're going to have a fun new meeting format. And I love that innovation, continuing the innovation. Talk to me about giving back to the community. So it's one thing to have a great internal structure, and you do have that, and your team is high performers and you're diversified and you're really focused on your client and succeeding in these areas. There is and Ryan, especially for you, we have seen so much community involvement, 6 years on the Salem Chamber board. And could each of you share a little bit about the volunteer work that you do in the community? And I know it's a lot. You don't have to, it's awkward talking about the time we donate to the things we're passionate about because it looks self-serving. But would you be willing to be vulnerable and share a little bit about an area or two you're very passionate about and giving back to the community and a little bit about the why behind that?
Yeah. So for me, kind of the two-pronged approaches, the hyper-local and then the big picture. So I'm on the board of Gilbert House, and I've got a 3.5-year-old and a 6.5-year-old, so we're over there all the time. We love the Gilbert House, and so that's a natural place for me to spend time just supporting that amazing organization. But then in the bigger picture, it's very easy to settle into our lens. And I serve on the American Bar Association as one of the delegates to the House of Delegates, and I have had opportunity to be a part of the national organization and looking at what issues are affecting access to justice in our country, what issues are coming into play for attorneys regulating themselves and their own behavior and ethics, and all of these huge, big picture pieces that really kick me out of the rut of my lens, of my life, of my privileges, and really open my eyes to what's going on in our country and how each of us can show up to be a part of making the world a better place every day, both on the little landscape of our community and then the big landscape of our country.
Looking at it through two lenses. Like you said, you have the hyper local in Gilbert House and creating a safe environment for children to explore and see new things and touch and feel. And I love the work that they've done. So kudos to your board too, also for the sensory deprived who may not see, smell, taste. Maybe taste isn't the right one for Gilbert House, but it is a very special place because it plays to the sensories of those who may not have all sensories in place. Ryan, how about yourself in the community?
Well, I'd say two different ones, and Stephanie and I have a strong commitment both for serving our community, but also serving our legal community. So I've been Marion County Bar President. We actively support the Marion County Bar Association. I serve on the House of Delegates, which is our legislative body for the Oregon State Bar Association. And so we're firmly committing to making this a better legal community. And I don't think the public generally understands how collaborative and friendly our legal community is. Like the attorneys in this community, unusually so, are supportive and helpful of each other. You go to other legal communities, it's a lot more competitive and cutthroat. Here in this community, I can call even a lawyer that I know I'm going to have an issue with because our clients are fighting about something. I could just call them up and we just resolve things. And I think it's important from a leadership standpoint that we continue that legacy for each generation of lawyers that are coming through by being active in our local bar association. So Stephanie and I are very active in that. And then in terms of serving our community, I'm raising my family here. I want this to be the healthiest community in the state and the country. And the only way you can do that is by volunteering your time and your talent and your treasure here locally. And that's one of the things I love about Salem. We have a volunteer core that just won't quit. We have more nonprofits in this community that serve this community. And I think that's important that we all lean in on those things. Obviously, you and I have been active in the chamber board and those issues. And I love working with the youth in our community. I've served on the board for Salem Leadership Foundation for 22 years now because of their working to make Salem a healthier community, whether it's creating churches as neighborhood centers for their community, whether it's working with the different crises, whether it's no meth, not in my neighborhood, whether it's the current issues we're dealing with addiction and homeless issues in the community. Those are really important things to lean in on. And Stephanie and I think, pretty successfully create a culture of our office, Collier Law, gives back to the community, whether it's our time or our talent or our treasure. That's really important to us. And I think our staff feels that and knows that.
And really, we have those conversations with our clients, too. I talk to clients all the time. I say, hey, think about this. What if everyone in Salem gave 1% of their assets on passing to a charity? Can you imagine what that would do for our local organizations? Just 1%. Would your family even notice it was gone? But the power of working together, the power of combining each of our small gifts can make a huge impact in our community. So we have those conversations with our clients too.
I think we're in a unique position to be able to do that because we get asked those questions like, what charities do you give to? And do you give during your life? Well, if you gave during your life, let's incorporate that now. And that's it's a great privilege that we have to be able to lean on kind of those sacred issues that people don't usually talk about.
I've been contemplating sharing a deeply personal story that when I was hired here, I came out of Don Pancho Authentic Mexican Foods, a large manufacturing environment, great team. But I knew, based on some leadership I had received starting out at the Salem Chamber out of undergrad by Mike McLaren, that I knew I would love to serve in this capacity at some point in my career. And I had that incredible blessing, and I was hired by our board at the conclusion of 2018 and started in earnest in January of 2019. And I started to go through some of our documents. And it's on the night of January 12th, 2019, at 10:30 p.m., I found some documentation that was of great concern to me that put our organization in a potential situation of risk that was not necessary for us to be in. And I called you at 10:30 at night. Your friend Tom, new on the job, you were part of a hiring committee that believed in me, and you took that phone call. That has meant the world to me in our relationship. You were the only director I called because I knew you'd answer, and I knew you'd understand the magnitude of how seriously I take this role. And I just want you to know it meant the world to me that you took the call, and you shared perspective that made me feel much calmer about the situation. And it's a great gift you gave to me and deeply personal. But this organization, Ryan, is in incredible shape and very strong because of leaders like you who believe deeply in what a chamber does for the small business community. And I want to thank you for that. Let's switch gears a little. Pardon me. Let's end on something that I call a leadership challenge. We need to be caretakers in this community. The people who are going to exit to pursue other things, that's natural. But those of us who choose to be in Salem have to build this community to be powerful, resilient, strong, inclusive, and have opportunities for people on whatever they want to pursue, be it in business, public sector, solopreneurs, any dreams, they should be able to be accomplished in our community, and you're both committed to that. Would you wrap us up and share why you're proud to call Salem home and home to your business?
You know, for me, it's the sense of community. And I felt that right away. It's a little big town. It's so sprawling in some ways, especially for me coming from a rural community, but it has such a great sense of community, a really great creative space, the arts, the music, live theater, roller derby. We just have a lot of people who are very passionate about what they do. And, you know, I said I go to the national level to get that lens shift, but it happens here. It's so important, I think, to stay humble and leave our egos at the door and be ready to hear hard truths and to challenge ourselves to always be open to learning someone else's truth. And I feel like in Salem, there have been so many opportunities that I've had, even in this town, to hear new voices, to hear new perspectives, to say, wow, I never thought about that issue that way. Thank you for broadening my lens. And so I just really love the community, the conversations that I have with people here. It's just really, really powerful.
I would say Salem has so many unique things, but I think one of the most unique things is that we have people that are passionate about this community and each other, who support and help each other. And yes, I've raised my family here, so I feel connected to everything that I've done with my kids in this community, to everything that Holly and I have raised in this community, to the nonprofits we've served on, to the growth of Salem over the last almost 30 years that we've been here. I feel a part of that. And I'm never going to give that up, because I was a part of building something better. And I love that. And I love that we have so many people that roll up their sleeves and are committed to making Salem better, who work alongside you. And I think we're a little bit unique because of that. I think we serve in ways that other communities don't serve. And Salem has challenges. We absolutely have real challenges, whether it's having a larger incarcerated population here, whether it's having, the 10 or 11 of the poorest schools in the state of Oregon here. But those are not just challenges, those are opportunities. And we as a community have come together to tackle those challenges and those opportunities to make ourselves better. And I think pretty universally, you can say that we've been successful in that. And we're all better people because we dove right in and took those opportunities to make our community better.
Stephanie Palmblad and Ryan Collier, two leaders making our city better. Thank you for sharing this time with us today, and for telling the community a little bit about what you do, but most importantly, why you do it. We applaud you, and thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Salem Chamber podcast. The Salem Chamber is a 501c6, not-for-profit organization representing nearly 1,100 businesses in the greater Salem area. For additional information, please visit salemchamber.org. This has been a production of Dan Johnson and Lena Prine on the Salem Chamber's professional staff team.